first of all, welcome everybody. Thank you for everybody that's attending. And today's presentation is going to be on compliance with Totara and how we can move away from that tick box type of compliance exercise, which we know most organizations do. I've been a learning development professional for 20 odd years, and I know that people go through that, but we're going to look at behavioural compliance a bit more today. As Matt said, there's a little bit of information here which I hastily put together. So it's going to be some slides, because there's quite a lot of information on here. These slides will be made available for you over the next couple of days. Questions, if you have any questions, please drop them into the Q&A. The reason we ask you to put them into the Q&A is because if I can't answer them live, then they get saved with the presentation, the recording of the presentation, and we can answer them in the community. Any comments or links will be posted in the chat. So if you've got any just kind of general comments, please just post them in the chat. Session is recorded, as Matt says. We record it just so that people that can't attend the webinar can see it in the future. And it will be available via the community. We'll also have any kind of follow-up discussion. So if you have any further questions, they will be available in the community too. So what we're going to be running through today, very briefly, is we're going to go through the 5 stages of behavior change and how they link with compliance. We'll look at how you can build out a compliance program using the complete talent experience platform. So that's using 3 parts of the talent experience platform, which I'll come on to shortly. We'll also look at how you can report on compliance across your organization and the tried and trusted certifications that are in Totara Learn and how you can use those with regards to recurring training. So first of all, I am going to launch a poll. So first question is, what is compliance? So there's 1, 2, 3 possible answers there, and also an other. So if you could just pop what you think compliance is, and we can move on. So I'll just give you, the answers are coming in thick and fast now, so thank you very much. Excellent. Brilliant. So there's quite a lot coming through there. There is a hint there. It's not just mandatory training. But in this poll, you can only give one answer. Thanks very much for your answers there, everybody. So yeah, compliance is often linked to mandatory training. In fact, you know, that's kind of where I started out in kind of HR world. And that was with the requirement for anti-money laundering training in a bank. And unfortunately, then compliance or mandatory training then becomes compliance, and people refer to this mandatory training as compliance throughout the organization in general. But it's not just about training. It's much more than that, and it's about the behaviors that your people in the organization display. And there are 2 sides to compliance, really. For organizations, compliance is about meeting their legal and regulatory requirements, and this is often shown through reporting. And this is an important part of compliance, but there is another half. And this is what the regulations are driving towards, and that's the behavioural compliance of the people there. Once you've got those 2 in place, then you can really say that you are truly compliant, or you have true compliance across the organisation. One of the biggest challenges that we have when it comes to compliance, though, is the fact that we need to achieve this often using different tools. It's often seen as a learning development initiative, which means the focus is on training, but that's not the only thing. So I've just got an example here of some of the areas of compliance and the type of tools that will be used. So, for example, a learning management system, and it will be owned by the learning and development team. The manager's oversight and competencies are often run through a performance management system. So the manager or the HR team tend to own those areas or those tools. And then you've got social norms and connection and video conferencing tools, chat-based tools, collaboration spaces. They tend to be owned by the IT department. So these kind of three different sets of tools, three different departments who should all have some responsibility towards compliance. Now, our CEO, Richard Wiles, has said that top performing organizations understand that learning and performance management must be tightly interwoven, but the myriad of systems that organizations rely on to support these critical learning and development functions are often disparate and difficult to navigate. And this is where Totara's Talent Experience Platform comes in. So rather than trying to achieve all of these different areas of compliance on different platforms or not doing them at all, you can integrate the technology with Totara's TXP, the Talent Experience Platform. So they're all in one ecosystem. And if you have one ecosystem, it kind of removes a barrier for people. Also, I suppose from another kind of selfish point of view, when you are an administrator of this, integrating all the technology, you're able to report on the aspects of compliance rather than only seeing part of the picture. You can report on the full picture. So let's have another very quick poll. This one's multiple choice. So which of these scenarios is likely to result in compliance? And the three scenarios are annual fire safety training where users read guidance and check a box to confirm they've understood. Equality and diversity and inclusion training supported by peer mentors and established recruitment processes development with EDI in mind. And also regular simulator training sessions for pilots. So there's three different scenarios there. Which ones do you think identifies compliance? I'll give you a clue. There's two. Excellent. So they're still coming in. So quite a mix there, which is good. So we think that the regular simulator training sessions for pilots and the ED and I training are correct. We think they're the two. And the reasons are this. So in simulator sessions, pilots are required to demonstrate the skills that they need to ensure safety on an aircraft, and regular assessment ensures that gaps in the knowledge are identified. It's also a regular requirement that pilots maintain the skills through a certain number of flying hours as well, but that's by the by. Similarly, it's a legal requirement in many parts of the world to implement strong equality, diversity and inclusion practices during recruitment. And this ensures fair access to roles and reduces discrimination. A training program is a great way to introduce this knowledge, which is then supported by ongoing mentors available to recruiters and processes which help them to correct behaviours. For example, blind recruitment, where the name, age and gender are removed from an application form before it's reviewed, is one method used to reduce risk of unconscious bias during recruitment. Now, the third one, which was quite popular, which was the fire. Now, imagine you're in an office and a fire breaks out and the person closest to the fire extinguishers took their mandatory training months ago. They grabbed the wrong fire extinguisher, which makes the fire worse, making the situation more dangerous. So while the training may have allowed the organisation to report compliance because they had provided some training, behavioural compliance, which is the ability to consistently demonstrate the correct skills and behaviour, is rarely achieved by an annual course alone. And in this situation, perhaps regular reminders and posters in the office identifying fire extinguishers and their usage would help. How are we doing, Matt? Do we have any questions so far?
Really, no questions yet. But like I say, if you do have some during the session, feel free to ask them. We'll come back to them. And we can also answer questions after the webinar as well. So if you do reflect on this webinar today and you have some questions afterwards about your own system and what you're doing, feel free to ask those in the community as well.
Thank you very much. There's only a couple more slides before we start jumping into the live system itself. So Joel Rogers identified 5 stages of behavior change. And, you know, that's the primary objective of compliance, really. And these are pattern interrupt, commitments and consistency, social stigma, repetition, and avoiding pain and gaining pleasure. So pattern interrupt is, well, we're all more comfortable in our usual patterns of behavior. You know, that's how we go about our daily lives. But even if we know these behaviors aren't compliant, it can be easy to slip back into those old patterns. So the first step is to interrupt the pattern in some way, make people change the way they're doing. Commitments and consistency. So we might all be taking the same training, working in the same organization, but we each need to make our own individual commitment to abide by the rules. So asking an individual for a commitment or to sign a commitment statement to compliant behaviors is a key step in the process as well. Social stigma. Peer pressure is a powerful thing. I think we can all agree with that. And making compliant behavior the de facto behavior and empowering the group to self-regulate is likely to be more effective than monitoring of a compliance officer. Repetition. We all know that the repetition is important to information retention, but it's equally important to embedding behavior change as well. It makes it hard for people to slip back into the old uncompliant ways of working with frequent reminders. And avoiding pain and gaining pleasure. So we naturally seek pleasure and avoid pain in the workplace, which might result in taking shortcuts, for example, because you want to save time, or allowing something uncompliant to happen because you don't want to challenge somebody to avoid social awkwardness. You don't want to say, hey, you know, you shouldn't have done that. We need to convince people not only that a lack of compliance is bad for them, but that compliance is good for them, that it leads to an easier, happier, healthier, and more pleasurable life. And I bet most of you would never have put those words in association with compliance. So the elements of a compliance program, these are the kind of, I've taken these from the compliance programs that I've run in the past, or compliance programs that I've seen other organizations run, but they all contain some of these elements. And, you know, feel free, if you will, in the chat to add any other elements of a compliance program that you may feel useful. But gain attention and a wake-up call. So this is a great way to interrupt usual patterns of behavior and surprise people and make them understand why compliance is important. It goes without saying that formal training and assessment of skills is probably one of the most likely ways that you will try to achieve compliance. Skills and competency frameworks can help you identify the skills, knowledge, and behavior of your staff, and you can also monitor compliance of these across the organization then. Nudge campaigns are a really great way to keep compliance in the front of mind through regular email reminders. And if you think of spaced learning theory when it comes to this, and we'll be having a look at these, how we can do this in the TXP very soon. Individual commitment. So compliance is a group and an individual commitment, and it's important to get that. So getting individuals to confirm their commitment is a great way of doing this. Social pressure, establishing social norms, again, making compliance the default behavior means everyone's likely to display those compliance behaviors. I remember working for an oil and gas company in down south, in just around London. And whenever you were walking up or down the stairs, you had to have one of your hands on the handrail at all times. And everybody from the highest up in the organization followed those, and they were encouraged to tell people if they weren't following there. So there's no people kind of running down the stairs, juggling laptops and coffee. And it works, you know, their statistics were really low on slip, trips and falls. Also the work environment. So none of this is effective if the work environment doesn't support compliance. So make sure you have the right tools, the right processes and the right resources in place. And ultimately the final stage is reporting. So reporting on those compliance programs. So when it comes to the programs, we want to automate it as much as possible. It's particularly important for large organizations and organizations with high turnover. So we need to make sure that people are enrolled in the right training, the right collaboration spaces, the right competency frameworks, and all this, the automation of this just makes it much less of an administrative burden. Personalized, so understanding and embracing the fact that everybody is different. Giving different training to managers, offering diagnostic assessments to reduce training time, etc. These are all ways of personalizing the experience. Not overwhelming. So, you know, we don't want people to, you know, we don't want kind of drinking from a fire hose scenario. We don't want too much information. We also need it to be obvious what to do and when to do it. And giving people the time, encouragement and direction they need to be compliant will make sure that it's successful, complete and timely. And there needs to be a cycle of continuous improvement to see what works, what doesn't, improve, refine, open to change. And these all form part of the health and safety executive guidance anyway. And finally, the reporting may be a legal requirement, it may not be, but make sure you can prove your people are not only trained, but engaged and demonstrating these behaviours. Any questions, Matt?
Yeah, Rebecca's just asking a question. With the elements of a compliance program, can you schedule nudge campaigns?
So, yes, you can. So I'll be coming on to this shortly, but since the TXP version 16, you can send course level notifications. Well, actually activity level notifications as well. So based upon somebody completing an activity in a course, you can then send them an email or a notification through Microsoft Teams, for example, with a nudge to say, you know, why not watch this video? And I'll show you some of those shortly, so we'll be able to go into those. Okay, right. I'm going to go through each element of these now, and I'll show you kind of on the platform how each of these works. But featured links is an eye-catching visual block. So this is my demo site. I'm logged in as a learner currently, and this is the featured links block. Most organizations tend to put it front and center on their dashboards, so learners have very quick access to the learning that they need. So in this case, you can see that we have a button or a link to my compliance statistics. My compliance statistics is Leah Learner. So straight away, I can see that my health and safety certification is overdue since today. And it's due today, so I'm due to complete it. So straight away, the learner has access to the data that they need to make themselves compliant. Also, these we've put a compliance tip of the day here. Now, this is a random glossary block. Now, I've not actually put a compliance tip in here, but you can see how the random glossary entry block could be used for that. It presents a different message each day, and it gives users a reason to check back as well. So you can actually manage campaigns and send those, gentle little nudges to people as well through just a simple block within the system. Notifications are particularly useful when it comes to compliance. And they can be notifications through the system, through email. You can have alerts and also notifications through the integration with Microsoft Teams. So if you are not compliant, you can get reminders sent, such as, you are due to complete this course in 2 days, 3 days, 1 day. You can also copy in the manager on these notifications as well. So they regularly remind users of the need to be compliant. And also workspaces as well. So again, another way to gain attention is through workspaces. And in this case, we have a workspace that discusses IT security. You can see here that a phishing email has been sent by the IT team, and people have clicked on the link. When they've clicked on the link within there, they are then put into an audience where they need to complete a course. And you can see here that Leo Learner has promised to do the course today. So that's my promise. I will get that done. But these workspaces are a great way of kind of encouraging peer pressure as well, without being too heavy-handed. Yeah, so next, so that's just a few ways to gain attention. We've got featured links front and center when you log onto the system. You've got a random glossary block, have a piece of information. Nudge campaigns can be used through there. Notifications going from the system saying you're not compliant, you need to do this piece of learning by X. Reporting dashboards so that the learners can see where they're up to, and also where managers can see where they're up to as well. And also workspaces where you can collaborate, post about topics around compliance. And again, in the workspaces here, we've got one around health, safety and well-being, where health and safety statistics or issues are highlighted, and people can make comments and report things as well. That may be familiar to you, Matthew. That bathroom there is in our offices in Brighton.
It's beautiful. Thank you for that.
It's a pleasure. I reported it when I was there. So formal training, I suppose the bread and butter, and if, being perfectly honest, for years and years, this has been one of the key drivers for organizations to buy a learning management system, a talent experience platform, learning experience platform, has been the formal training aspect. So formal training can be done through the 3 types of learning on the system, through courses, through programs, through certifications. And I'll give you examples of each. So in this case, we have a course. So Leo Learner clicked on a phishing scam. They've been enrolled on this course, which is all about how to identify phishing. So they click on the link. There's a reminder. Did you click on this? Once they've clicked on that, there is a phishing quiz that they have to complete. And this is where you can go down the adaptive learning route. So, for example, if I get this quiz wrong, so I'll put false, and I will put true. So hopefully I'll get 0%. Yep, so I've failed that. Now, because I've failed, I've been presented with a piece of e-learning, some common features, an infographic, and some more information around phishing. Because if I'd have got 100%, I would have been taken straight to this commitment statement where we mentioned commitment before. So I confirm that by ticking the box to the right, I will adhere to all IT security policies. You can word it however you wish, but you can use this as a completion criteria on your course. And I'm just going to very quickly do that. And you can see another kind of one of the gamification elements within the Totara's Talent Experience Platform is these leaderboards. So we can see Leah, Fee, a couple of managers, Gemma and Gary Lerner, and only Mark has got 100% on the quiz up here. So again, it's another good way to kind of encourage that social stigma where people aren't getting full marks. So that's courses. Now programs are a combination of courses. So they're a group of courses. So they may be around a particular topic. So it might be IT security as a full topic, which may include IT security policies. It may include Computer Misuse Act and how to spot phishing emails, maybe all part of a program. Now, when you create a program, you can add notifications to trigger at certain timeframes based upon due dates or enrollment dates. Now, another way is certifications. Certifications are the way that the Talent Experience Platform handles that recurring training. So in this case, we have a certification that's due. It has 3 pieces of content that the learner needs to complete for them to be marked as compliant. So once those 3 things are done, which I will just complete this one, tick in there, link to that website, SCORM in a nutshell. So I'll close that. And let the page refresh. Test your knowledge. Health and safety is important. Workplace risks. I always call these kind of ITV questions because they quite simple. Submit all and finish. So there we go. Glad I got 100% on that one. Then you can see now I've completed this course. So I am now certified. I have a certification. It's been removed from my current learning because I don't really need to think about it for a year. It's something that's been done, and the only thing I need to think about now is my behaviours with regards to health and safety. Any questions, Matt?
No questions at the moment, Lee. I'm just pointing out that some of the functionality you're showing at the moment, we do have lots of training available on this in the Totara Academy. So if you do want to take a deeper dive into some of this functionality, you can go and do some blended or some sort of e-learning in the Academy now.
Brilliant. Thank you, Matt. So a way to monitor proficiency in compliance skills and behaviours can be done through competency frameworks. And you can also have different frameworks for different topics. So you could have an induction competency framework, which covers off all the kind of traditional compliance topics, such as ED&I, fire, manual handling, all those. You could also, if you have people that work in a particular sector or a particular department, so you could have maybe in a housing organisation, you may have people that deal with asbestos. So you could have a competency framework that deals with those type of things, you know, building regulations and all that as well. So in this case, we have a competency profile for the learner still. And we can see here that from a compliance point of view, health and safety, the learner has been marked as competent. From an equality, diversity, inclusion and belonging, they haven't. So if I just click on that, it will tell me what I need to do to achieve compliance. So you can see I'm currently working towards it, but I'm not yet compliant. Now, with competency frameworks, you can set competencies so you can self-assign them or not, or they can be assigned by a manager. They can be automatically assigned by through an audience, so people with the same kind of role profiles, work in the same department, come from the same location. Also, people that have the same job role, you can assign competencies. You can also allow learners or managers or a combination of both to rate the competencies themselves as well. So if I just say system skills, I'm going to mark myself as competent. You can put a note in there as well that the person reviewing the competency can see. So it's not just a case of the learner says I'm competent. There can be a stage where it then goes to a reviewer to say, okay, maybe you are competent or not. I've observed you, your competent behaviors. Or it could just be that a manager rates the competent behavior. Or, as I said, it could be a combination of all. Now, with regards to the health and safety one here, the learner has to complete a set of courses. So once they've completed their certification, so they've completed those 3 courses, it automatically marks them as competent in the system. So there isn't a need for any kind of manual intervention, but it is important that we use skills framework and we use that ongoing monitoring to make sure that the behavioural compliance is in place. Another way to kind of monitor this behavioural compliance is through performance activities. So it could be through an appraisal, a check-in. It could be even through 360 feedback. Now, I'm just going to log out as a learner and I'm going to log into my administrator account. Are there any questions, Matt?
Yeah, just a question coming in from Nori. Do these competencies work without Totara Perform?
No, the competencies here are all in Totara Perform. Obviously, they have to be built within the product, but no, it's all part of Totara Perform.
That's great. Thanks, Lee. There's no more questions at the moment.
So you can see here that we've got a health and safety check-in for managers. So this is for managers and senior managers to actually review kind of the health and safety within the organization. So a manager would be assigned this. They would fill in how they're going to make sure the team meets the health and safety requirements. They're going to prioritize what they're going to prioritize, what they're doing to control risks, and all other types of questions can be put into a check-in, an appraisal, some sort of performance activity to make sure that on an ongoing basis that these behavioural compliance areas are done. Now, you can also include it as part of a 360-degree performance management process or a continuous performance management process where every check-in, whether they're monthly, whether they're weekly, whether they're every quarter, have a health and safety question in there, whether it's about, have you seen any risks? What are we doing towards health and safety? All these types of questions and the repetition of these will help drive that behavioural compliance. We've covered this really in the previous, so the checklist, the competency ratings. You can also use other evidence to get learners to upload evidence that they have completed a course externally or that they've seen a risk. So you can send them out and say, okay, what risks have been identified? What did you do about it? And these can all be uploaded to the other evidence, so they stay on the learner's profile. And then I mentioned earlier nudge campaigns. Now, from version 16, the centralized notification system means that you can tailor the notifications at a course level. So here's an example of some of the notifications. So we have a notification that once a learner has completed an activity, then there can be a specific notification. And to create that, it's fairly simple. So you completed. What's the name, isn't it? It goes to the subject, and you can say once it's completed or so many days after, and the subject can be activity name with the link, and then you can put hi, recipient first name, you completed, and then whatever you wanted to. So congratulations, you completed this activity, move on to the next one, or it could be, you know, a link related to the activity that they've completed. So it could be a more in-depth YouTube video or something like that. You can see here that we have a series of reminders that go on once the course has been completed. There is a notification. Congratulations, you completed it. Here's some information, a YouTube video, etc. Then another notification goes out 1 month later, and then 3 months later, and you can build campaigns just based upon a particular topic or particular subject within a course. We also have course due date reminders as well. So you don't need to put a course in a program or a certification to send those reminder emails to learners to say, you need to complete this piece of content, whatever it is. So again, you're doing nudge campaigns, you're reminding, there's the repetition to ensure that the compliant behavior continues. And the other element, which was the kind of commitment statement. So I commit to making sure that I am compliant. My behaviors will be compliant. And this rather unassuming label activity is one that you can get lots and lots of commitment from. It can be used for health and safety policies, any type of policy or procedures, but you're gaining that commitment. The learner is saying, yes, I am going to do this. We mentioned earlier social pressure, social norms. We've had a look at workspaces and how workspaces can be used to try and encourage social pressure. So highlighting statistics, you know, a particular team has poor compliance statistics or health and safety statistics, or the opposite way, which I prefer, is say this team is a shining example. They have no health and safety issues. They are, you know, 99, 100% compliant. And these are great ways to encourage social pressure and establish those social norms as well. Leaderboards, I've shown you leaderboards briefly on that course, so they can be used again. This is a block, an activity block on a course page. We mentioned on the slide this course forums. So again, encouraging social learning within the context of a course. So you can have a forum within this course that's just for discussing phishing scams, IT, that type of things. Resources and playlists. So those of you that are familiar with the Talent Experience Platform will know that you can create your own resources, you can curate your own content, and you can also create a playlist. So for example, the playlist, I can give it a description, add a hashtag to make it more searchable, some security, and I can decide who I want to see this. So everybody, limited people, which could just be my Mark manager again. Share it with Mark. And then once that's created, I can start to add content or select existing content as well. So technology, communication, so on and so forth. And this playlists can then be shared amongst the teams. They can make comments on the playlist content, kind of really generate those conversations, which again generate that behavioral compliance, the social pressure that can encourage people to show those compliant behaviors. The other way again is the 360 feedback through performance activities, which we've just had a look at performance activities, and making sure that as part of the 360 feedback, that health and safety or compliance, whatever it is, whatever compliant behaviors you need or you expect to be shown are included in those performance management activities. And ultimately, it all comes down then to the reporting. So, we've seen grades used there in the phishing course where Mark got 100%, but completion statistics as well. The reporting in the background of the system is a great way of getting those statistics. You can schedule reports so that a manager can see where his team are up to. You could have HR departments show where the organization is up to as a whole. And let me just go to the dashboard. And for managers having the front and center data showing them how their team are doing, where their team are up to, what the compliance statistics are for their team is a great step in making sure that managers are encouraging the behaviors within the organization. So these dashboards you can configure to show reports, whichever reports you want. The reports often used for compliance or certifications. So this is kind of you can see there's kind of a RAG status here, so red, amber, green. So we've got Fee is due to complete her first aid certification by the 1st of October. And with regards to things like certifications, in the first year when people complete the course, so first aid at work, they'd need to do 3 days, whereas the recertification, so when they do it again in the future, it's actually a different course. So they're not repeating the same content year in, year out. And again, this is a great way to kind of drive the behavioral change. So any changes in legislation or regulation can be highlighted in the new course that people need to complete. And on that, one of the new features in version 16 as well is the ability to reset a course. So you can use a course almost as a standalone, I'm not going to say certification, but part of a compliance program, because you can reset the completions of a course whilst retaining the completion data in the background, and make people do the content again. So for example, if there are changes to legislation or to a policy document, you could reset the course and get people to complete it again. Are there any questions, Matt?
Yeah, lots of questions coming in. So, for example, can a leaderboard be set up by department, for example, to show percentage of department that has completed the training?
Yes, theoretically. So you can, it would be a report rather than a leaderboard. So you could create a report that counts the completion records for a department. I won't have time to show you now, but if we pop that question into the community, I can do a quick video of how to do that. And then you can have departmental statistics. So you'd have HR and L&D at the top, and then, you'd go down from there. So yes, it can be done. I'll do a short video and pop that into the community. this is being recorded, so I've got no excuse not to do it now.
I can trim out. Rebecca, can the can the data be pulled into a data warehouse for use with Power BI?
I believe so. Totara is an open source system, and it's got extensive APIs. There are ways to schedule reports so that reports can be automatically delivered into different systems. So I am aware that there are organizations using Power BI and other tools as well out there. So in short, yes, it can.
Great, thanks, Lee. If you had EDI course as a certification, would the competency update from competent to not competent if the person had not completed the repeat course? Do you want to say that again?
No, I think you know what I mean. So if the certification was, I don't think it does. I think you have a competency that is based upon completing a course, which is in a certification. And once they complete that course, bingo, the competency is marked as competent. So the user is marked as competent in that. Now, when it comes to the next year, the course basically resets back to as though they've not done it. But because the course completion records are kept in the background, it doesn't kind of have that connection to say this person has no longer completed this course because theoretically they have completed it. Again, that's a long way of saying no, sorry.
That's okay. And just to confirm, if a user resets a course, it keeps the previous completion date for a user.
Yeah, users aren't able to, but administrators are. So administrators can reset the course. But yes, it does complete the. It does keep the completion data.
Great, thanks, Lee. Question from Issa. Sorry, just to get this interactivity and functionality, do I need to have all three products? So Totara Learn, Totara Engage, and Totara Perform?
So there was elements of all three products in there. When it comes to performance management, so the competencies, etc., you do need Perform, workspaces, playlists, and the ability to curate your own content comes in Engage, which is the learning experience platform. But predominantly, most of the activities in here are in Totara Learn, because as I said earlier, most organizations build a business case for a learning management system or a piece of learning technology based upon compliance, because the risk to the organization and the fines that an organization can be hit by are, can be astronomical in comparison to the cost of a learning management system. So predominantly most of the things that I've shown today are in the learning management system in Totara Learn, but there are elements such as the I've just seen some fork lightning, so thunder's coming. I'm sorry. So some elements such as competencies, etc., are in performance management. So we've used the whole platform today, but predominantly Totara Learn is where you can do compliance and compliance reporting ultimately.
Great, thanks, Lee. Like I say, there's obviously quite a lot to take in from the webinar today. This webinar goes into the section on the community called Webinars on Demand. That is actually a resource of Totara Engage. And on the side there's a comment section, and you can tag Lee or myself in there, and you can ask further questions afterwards as well. So yeah, feel free to reflect on this video, think about what you're doing in your own organization, and see if there's any improvements you'd like to make. And then, yeah, like I said, feel free to ask further questions in the community as well.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Matt. Thanks everybody for the time today. Matt said we'll get this video uploaded. We'll also get the presentation uploaded as well, so you can just have a look at some of the things that are on there, and hopefully make compliance less of a tick in the box exercise.